3 minutes. That is exactly how long it took to erase my entire existence. 3 minutes for the boarding door to close, for the jet bridge to retract, and for the life I thought I had to disappear into the gray sky above Rome. I was standing at the window of Fiumicino Airport, my forehead pressed against the cold glass, watching the Alitalia flight taxi away. My mother was on that plane. My twin sister Sarah was on that plane, and I, Maya, the responsible one, the good daughter, was standing in the terminal with a fake boarding pass in my hand and a backpack that I would soon discover contained nothing but old newspapers and a brick. You think you know what betrayal feels like. Maybe a boyfriend cheated on you, or a friend talked behind your back. But this was different. This was a surgical removal. It was a precise, calculated amputation of a family member. And as I watched that plane lift off, banking sharply over the Mediterranean, I didn't cry. Not yet. I was too busy trying to understand how the two people who shared my DNA could look me in the eye, smile, and leave me to die in a foreign country. But to understand why I was stranded in Italy with €0 and no identity, you have to understand who I was before I became a ghost. You need to know about the Underwoods of Chicago and the lie we had been living for 20 years. My name is Maya. I'm 22 years old. If you looked at my family from the outside, you would have been jealous. Everyone was. My father, Robert, was a high-end real estate developer. My mother, Elena, was the perfect socialite, the kind of woman who wore pearls to the grocery store and never had a hair out of place. And then there was Sarah, my twin sister. But we weren't identical, not even close. Sarah was the golden sun, blonde, vivacious, the star of every room she entered. She was the one who got the modeling contracts, the one who charmed the teachers, the one who wrecked 3 cars in high school and never paid a dime because she could cry on cue. And me? I was the moon. Dark hair, quiet, studious. I was the one who balanced the checkbook. I was the one who made sure the bills were paid on time. I was the invisible glue that kept the Underwood family from falling apart. I didn't mind it, honestly. I loved my dad. He was the only one who really saw me. He used to sneak into my room when I was studying late at night, bring me a cup of hot cocoa and say, "Maya, you're the engine. Sarah is the paint job, but you're the engine. Don't ever forget that." I held on to those words like a lifeline, especially after the crash. 6 months ago, our world ended. My father was driving home from a site visit in the rain. A truck hydroplaned. It was over in an instant. No goodbyes, no final words, just a closed casket and a house that suddenly felt way too big and way too quiet. The grief was heavy, but the panic was heavier. You see, my father was the only one who understood the money. My mother had never paid a bill in her life. Sarah thought money came from a magic hole in the wall. Within a week of the funeral, the vultures started circling. Creditors, partners, people claiming Dad owed them. My mother, Elena, fell apart. She spent days in bed with the curtains drawn, weeping about how we were going to be destitute. Sarah just got angry. She screamed about how this was unfair, how she couldn't lose her status, her car, her life. I did what I always did. I stepped up. I dropped out of my final semester of college to manage the estate. I sat in meetings with lawyers who looked at me like I was a child. I organized the paperwork. I found the life insurance policies. And that's when I found the anomaly. There was a separate account, a trust, established by my father 3 years ago. It wasn't huge by billionaire standards, but it was significant, $2 million. And it was locked. The beneficiary was listed simply as M&S, which I assumed meant Maya and Sarah, but the access date was tied to a specific condition, upon the permanent relocation of the family unit. I didn't understand it at the time. I asked our family lawyer, Mr. Henderson, about it. He was a sweaty, nervous man who always looked like he was hiding something. He just wiped his forehead and said, "It's a standard clause, Maya. Your father wanted to ensure you girls were settled before the money was released. Perhaps he meant for you to move to a smaller house." I let it go. I shouldn't have. God, I really shouldn't have. A month later, my mother emerged from her room with a manic energy that scared me. She had a plan. She said she couldn't stand the memories in Chicago anymore. She wanted a fresh start. She wanted us to take a healing trip to Europe, specifically Italy. She said we would go to Rome, spend a month eating pasta and crying and healing, and then maybe we would look for a small villa in Tuscany to buy with the insurance money. "We need this, Maya," she pleaded, gripping my hands. Her eyes were wide, desperate. "We need to be a family again, just the three of us, please. You've been working so hard. Let me take care of you for once." I wanted to believe her. I was exhausted. I was 22 and I felt 80. The idea of drinking wine in a piazza and forgetting about probate courts and debt collectors sounded like heaven. Sarah was surprisingly on board too. She started talking about Italian fashion, about how the change of scenery would be good for her personal brand. So I agreed. I packed our lives up. I organized the sale of the house in Chicago. I transferred the liquid assets to a holding account that Mom insisted on managing because she needed to feel useful. I kept a small emergency fund for myself, about $5,000, in a separate savings account. We flew first class. The flight over was actually nice. Mom was affectionate, tucking a blanket around me. Sarah shared her magazines with me. For the first time in years, it felt like we were sisters. I let my guard down. I let myself relax. I fell asleep somewhere over the Atlantic, dreaming of gelato and cobblestone streets. We landed in Rome in the morning. The chaos of Fiumicino Airport was overwhelming, but Mom seemed to know exactly what she was doing. She was guiding us, laughing, pointing out signs. "Listen," she said, checking her watch. "We have a 3-hour layover before the connecting train to the coast, but I need to run to the duty-free shop in Terminal 3 to pick up that perfume Dad used to love. I want to wear it tonight." "I'll come with you," Sarah said instantly, linking arms with Mom. "Maya, honey," Mom said, turning to me with a sweet smile. "Can you stay here with the carry-ons? And actually, can you hold my heavy coat? It's sweltering in here." "Sure," I said. "No problem." "Oh, and give me your passport," Mom added casually. "I need to get us verified at the service desk for the train tickets so we don't have to wait in line later. Sarah, give me yours too." Sarah handed hers over without blinking. I hesitated. Just for a split second. My father had always drilled it into me. Never let your passport out of your sight in a foreign country. "Maya, don't be paranoid," Sarah snapped, rolling her eyes. "Mom is going 30 feet away to the desk. Stop being such a control freak." "It's okay, baby," Mom said, her voice soft. "I just want to get everything sorted so we can relax. I'll be right back." I handed it to her. I handed my life to the woman who gave birth to me. I watched them walk away. They looked like a matched set, both blonde, both tall, walking with that confident stride that says we own the world. I sat down on a metal bench, guarding 3 suitcases and Mom's heavy wool coat. I waited. 20 minutes passed, then 30, then 45. I wasn't worried yet. Airports are busy. Lines are long. I pulled out my book and read a few pages. An hour passed. I stood up and stretched. A tiny knot of anxiety started to form in my stomach. I texted Sarah, "Hey, where are you guys? Getting hungry." The message didn't deliver. I frowned. My phone showed no service. That was weird. I had bought an international plan before we left. I tried connecting to the airport Wi-Fi. It connected, but when I tried to send a WhatsApp message, it just spun and spun. I waited another 30 minutes. Now, the knot in my stomach was a fist. I gathered the bags, which were strangely light, and started walking toward the direction they had gone. I went to the service desk. No sign of them. I went to the duty-free shop. No sign of them. I went to the bathroom, thinking maybe they were stuck in a line. I checked every stall. Nothing. Panic is a cold thing. It starts in your toes and works its way up until your throat feels like it's closing. I walked up to an information kiosk. The woman there looked bored. "Excuse me," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "I can't find my family. Can you page them? Elena and Sarah Underwood." She sighed, typed something in, and spoke into a microphone. The announcement echoed through the terminal in Italian and English. "Elena and Sarah Underwood, please meet your party at the information desk." We waited 10 minutes. Nothing. Maybe they went to the gate? The woman suggested. Do you have a flight? We just landed, I said. We're taking a train. Check the departures, she said, pointing to a screen. Maybe they got confused. I looked at the massive board of flights. Paris, London, New York, New York. Flight AZ610 to JFK. Boarding. A thought, crazy and impossible, struck me. I ran. I dragged the suitcases with me, bumping into angry travelers, muttering apologies. I ran all the way to Terminal 1. I don't know why. It was just an instinct, a sick, twisting instinct that I prayed was wrong. I got to the gate just as the final boarding call was ending. The agent was closing the door. And there, through the glass, I saw them. They weren't on the jet bridge yet. They were pausing, just for a second. My mother was adjusting her bag. Sarah was laughing, holding a Starbucks cup. They looked relaxed, relieved. "Mom!" I screamed, slamming my hand against the glass. "Sarah!" People turned to stare. The gate agent stepped in front of me. "Signorina, please, the gate is closed." "That's my mother!" I yelled, tears finally stinging my eyes. "They have my passport! They have my ticket!" The agent looked at the computer. "Name?" "Underwood, Elena Underwood," he typed. He frowned. "Yes, Elena Underwood and Sarah Underwood. They have boarded. Seat 4A and 4B. "And Maya?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Maya Underwood?" He checked again. He shook his head. "No, there is no reservation for a Maya Underwood on this flight." I stared at him. "But we came here together. We were going to live here." "This flight is going to New York, Signorina, not staying in Rome." I looked back through the window. The jet bridge was pulling away. They were gone. They hadn't just left me, they had fled. They had flown me to Italy, stolen my documents, and hopped on a flight back to the US, not even to Chicago, but to New York. I sank to the floor, the cold, hard marble of Fiumicino Airport. I looked at the suitcases I had been guarding. A terrible suspicion seized me. I unzipped the first one. Newspapers, old Chicago Tribunes wadded up to create volume. I unzipped the second one. More paper, a few old towels. I unzipped the third one. A single brick wrapped in a towel to give it weight. It was a prop. The whole thing was a prop. I checked Mom's heavy wool coat, the one she asked me to hold. I patted the pockets. Nothing. No wallet, no hidden cash, just a folded piece of paper in the inside pocket. My hands shook so hard I could barely unfold it. It was a note, written in my mother's elegant, looping cursive. "Maya, you've always been so capable, so independent. You were right, you are the engine. But engines don't need the passengers to survive. Sarah needs me. Sarah needs the help. You can survive anything. The trust fund required permanent relocation of the family unit to become active. Well, we relocated you. Technologically, the terms are met. By the time you get back, if you get back, the money will be transferred and we will be gone. Don't come looking for us. It's better this way. You were always too serious for us anyway. Love, Mom." I dry heaved. Right there in the middle of gate B12. I retched until my ribs hurt, but nothing came up. "Signorina?" The gate agent was looking at me with pity now. "Do you need a doctor? Police?" I couldn't even finish the sentence. What did I need? I needed a mother who loved me. I needed a sister who didn't view me as competition. I needed my dad. "Police," I whispered, but the police were useless. Italian carabinieri are stylish, but they aren't exactly therapists. They took my statement. They looked at the note. They shrugged. "It is a civil matter," one officer said, lighting a cigarette despite the no smoking sign outside the station. "Your mother. She is cruel, yes, but she did not put a gun to your head. She left you. You are an adult. This is not a kidnapping." "She stole my passport." "She has your passport," he corrected. "Family disputes, very complicated. You go to the U.S. Embassy, via Vittorio Veneto. They help you." "I have no money to get there," I said. "I have no phone. My service was cut." He looked at me, then reached into his pocket and pulled out a 10-euro note. "Take the train to Termini station. Walk to the embassy. Good luck, Bella." That was it. Dismissed. I took the train. I didn't know what else to do. I sat in the rattling carriage, staring out at the graffiti-covered walls of the Roman suburbs. I felt hollow. I kept replaying the last 6 months in my head, the meetings with the lawyers, the way Mom would sign whatever I put in front of her without looking. The trust fund required permanent relocation. She had played me. My mother, the woman who couldn't figure out how to use the dishwasher, had orchestrated a complex international fraud. She had used me to sell the house, liquidate the assets, and then she had dumped me on another continent to trigger the payout clause of a trust fund I had found. I checked my pockets. I had the 10 euros the cop gave me. I had my dead phone. I had the clothes on my back, a light sweater and jeans, because I thought we were going to a sunny villa. And I had 3 suitcases full of garbage. I left the suitcases at the train station. I just walked away from them. I didn't have the strength to drag the evidence of my stupidity around Rome. I arrived at Termini Station. It was chaos. Pickpockets, tourists, nuns, soldiers. I walked out into the blinding afternoon sun. The city was beautiful, mocking me with its gold light and ancient stone. I started walking toward where I thought the embassy was, but when I got there, the gates were closed. It was 5 p.m. on a Friday. "Closed for the weekend," the guard said through the intercom. "Come back Monday morning at 8 a.m. "I have nowhere to go," I pleaded into the speaker. "Please, I'm an American citizen. I'm stranded." "Emergency services only for life and death medical situations," the voice crackled. "For lost passports, come Monday." Monday. 3 nights. 3 nights on the streets of Rome with 10 euros. I walked away. I walked until my feet blistered. The sun went down and the air turned cold. Rome is romantic at night if you have a lover and a credit card. If you are alone and homeless, it is terrifying. The shadows are deep. The men who linger on street corners look at you like you are meat. I found a small piazza near the Pantheon. It was crowded with tourists, which felt safer. I sat on the edge of a fountain, trying to make myself small. I was starving. I hadn't eaten since the plane. I used 5 of my 10 euros to buy a slice of pizza and a bottle of water. I ate it slowly, making every bite last. As the night wore on, the tourists thinned out. The restaurants closed. The city grew quiet except for the sound of mopeds and distant sirens. I curled up on a bench, wrapping my arms around myself. It was cold. A damp, seeping cold that got into your bones. I must have dozed off, because I woke up to a hand on my shoulder. I scrambled back, screaming. "Easy, easy," a voice said. It wasn't a cop. It wasn't a predator. It was an old woman, probably 80, dressed in layers of rags. She was holding out a piece of cardboard. "You sleep here, police take you," she said in broken English. "Put this under. Stone is cold." She gave me the cardboard and hobbled away. A random act of kindness from someone who had nothing. It made me cry harder than the abandonment. I survived the first night. Barely. By Sunday afternoon, I was a wreck. My hair was matted. My clothes were stained. I smelled. I had spent the last of my money on a coffee just to use a cafe bathroom to splash water on my face. I was sitting on the steps of a church, watching people throw coins into a fountain. I wondered if I could fish them out without getting arrested. I was dizzy from hunger. The anger was fading, replaced by a dull, aching despair. Maybe Mom was right. Maybe I wasn't the engine. Maybe I was just spare parts. "You look like you are doing a very bad impression of a Caravaggio painting," a voice said. I looked up. Standing there was a man. He was older, maybe mid-60s, wearing a suit that cost more than my college tuition. He had silver hair, sharp glasses, and he was leaning on a cane with a silver handle. He wasn't looking at me with pity. He was looking at me with curiosity. "Go away," I croaked. "I don't have any money." "I don't want your money," he said, his accent refined, sharp. "I am observing. You are American. You have good shoes, but they are scuffed. You have a manicure, but it is chipped. You are sitting like a girl who was taught ballet, but you are sleeping on church steps. You are a puzzle." "I'm not a puzzle," I snapped, the old Maya, the fighter, flaring up for a second. "I'm a victim of fraud. Now leave me alone." The man's eyebrows shot up. "Fraud? Ah, Now you have my attention." He took a handkerchief from his pocket and dusted off the step next to me. He sat down, painfully, stiffly. "My name is Alessandro," he said. "I used to be a forensic accountant for the state prosecutor's office here in Rome. I spent 40 years chasing money trails for the mafia, for corrupt politicians, for bad banks. I am retired now. I feed pigeons and I solve crossword puzzles. Both are incredibly boring." He turned his gaze to me. His eyes were like lasers behind those glasses. "Tell me," he said, "who stole from you, and how much?" "My mother," I said, the words tasting like ash. "And my sister, and I don't know exactly, maybe $2 million. Alessandro whistled low. "Family, the most dangerous criminal organization of all. The mafia has a code of honor. Families? No." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a protein bar. He handed it to me. "Eat," he commanded. "Your blood sugar is low. You cannot recount a crime scene if you are fainting." I tore the wrapper open and devoured it. "Slowly," he chided. "So, 2 million, a mother, a sister. You are here, they are... where?" "New York, or maybe back in Chicago, I don't know." "And you have no passport?" "No." "And no phone?" "No." Alessandro tapped his cane on the cobblestones. Tap, tap, tap. He was thinking. I watched him, wary. I knew I shouldn't talk to strangers, but what choice did I have? "You know," he said softly, "in my line of work I learned something important. The person who is left behind is usually the one who holds the key. They leave you because they think you are weak. They think you will break. They think you will simply disappear." He looked at me. "Do you want to disappear, signorina?" I thought about Sarah's laugh. I thought about my mother's note. Engines don't need passengers. I thought about my dad. "You are the engine, Maya." I looked at Alessandro. "No, I don't want to disappear." "Good," Alessandro said. He struggled to his feet and offered me a hand. It was soft, but his grip was iron. "Then come with me. I have a guest room. I have a secure internet connection, and I have a very fierce housekeeper who makes excellent lasagna. We have work to do." I hesitated. "Why? Why would you help me?" Alessandro smiled, and for the first time, he looked dangerous. Not to me, but to the world. "Because, my dear," he said, "I am bored, and I absolutely hate it when amateurs try to commit financial crimes. It insults my profession." He gestured with his cane. "Andiamo. Let's go make them regret they didn't kill you." I stood up. My legs were shaky, but my heart was starting to beat a new rhythm. It wasn't the rhythm of a victim anymore. It was the steady, thumping rhythm of an engine coming back to life. I took his hand. Alessandro's apartment was not what I expected. Given his expensive suit and the way he carried himself like a retired king, I expected a modern penthouse with glass walls and cold, minimalist furniture. Instead, we walked 3 blocks to a heavy wooden door set into a wall that looked older than the United States. He punched a code into a keypad, the lock buzzed, and we stepped into a courtyard that smelled of jasmine and damp stone. There was an elevator, an ancient birdcage thing that rattled as we ascended to the 4th floor. When he opened his front door, I felt like I was stepping into a library that someone also happened to live in. Books, thousands of them. Floor-to-ceiling shelves lining every wall, spilling over onto tables, stacked in precarious towers on the Persian rugs. It smelled of old paper, espresso, and pipe tobacco. It was the safest place I had ever seen. "Elena!" Alessandro called out, his voice booming. "We have a guest, and she is in desperate need of the yellow bathroom and the blue soup." A tiny woman appeared from the kitchen. She couldn't have been more than 5 feet tall, wearing a floral apron and wielding a wooden spoon like a weapon. She took one look at me, matted hair, dirty jeans, hollow eyes, and her expression softened instantly. She didn't say a word. She just walked over, took my hand, and led me down a hallway. That shower was a religious experience. The water was hot, scalding hot, and I stood under it for 20 minutes, watching the grime of the Roman streets circle the drain. But it wasn't just dirt washing away. It was the old Maya. The Maya who asked for permission. the Maya who guarded the luggage while her family stole her life. I scrubbed my skin until it was pink and raw. I used shampoo that smelled like rosemary. I brushed my teeth with a spare toothbrush Elena gave me until my gums bled. When I came out, wrapped in a plush robe that was 3 sizes too big, Elena was waiting with a pile of clothes. "My granddaughter's," she said, her English heavily accented. "She is in London for university. You wear." Soft sweatpants, a cashmere sweater, clean socks. I put them on and felt human again. I walked back into the living room. Alessandro was sitting at a massive oak desk, surrounded by 3 computer monitors that looked incongruous amidst the antique books. He was typing furiously with 2 fingers. "Sit," he commanded, pointing to a leather armchair. "Eat." Elena placed a bowl of soup in front of me, minestrone, rich, thick, full of vegetables. I ate it so fast I burned my tongue, but I didn't care. As the warmth spread through my chest, my brain started to wake up. The fog of panic was lifting, revealing the sharp, jagged edges of my reality. "Okay," Alessandro said, spinning his chair around to face me. "I have made some inquiries, but first, we need to establish the baseline. You said your father was a developer?" "Robert Underwood," I said. "Underwood and Associates, Chicago." "And he died 6 months ago." "Yes, car accident." "And the trust fund?" Alessandro leaned forward, his eyes gleaming behind his glasses. "Tell me about the structure. You saw the documents?" "I found them," I corrected. "My mother didn't even know they existed until I showed her. It was a fail-safe trust, $2 million liquid cash, beneficiaries M&S, access condition, permanent relocation of the family unit outside the primary residence." Alessandro nodded slowly. "A common clause for wealthy men who fear bankruptcy. They hide money in a trust that only triggers if they lose the house or have to flee. Your mother, she interpreted relocation creatively." "She didn't interpret it," I said, a bitter taste rising in my throat. "She engineered it. She sold the house in Chicago. That was step 1. But the trust probably required proof of residence elsewhere. That's why we came to Italy. She probably rented a place here, put our names on a lease to satisfy the bank's automated systems, and then left." "Smart," Alessandro admitted. "Evil, but smart. However, she made a mistake." "What mistake?" "She left the engine behind," he smiled. "You said you managed the estate?" "I did everything. The probate, the taxes, the insurance." "Then you know the passwords." I froze. I know her email password. She uses the same one for everything, but she took my phone. I can't do 2-factor authentication." Alessandro laughed. It was a dry, rasping sound. "My dear, I worked for the Italian state prosecutor. Do you think a little thing like 2-factor authentication stops us? We are not hacking the Pentagon. We are hacking a middle-aged socialite who probably uses her dog's name as her security answer. Come here." I pulled my chair up to the desk. Alessandro opened a browser. "Gmail first," he said. "What is the address?" I gave it to him. I typed in the password. Sarah star 99, exclamation mark. My mother's world revolved around Sarah. Even her password was a tribute to the golden child. The screen prompted for a verification code sent to her phone. "Damn," I said. "She has her phone." "Look at the other options," Alessandro said. "Try another way." I clicked it. Get a verification code sent to recovery email. My heart hammered. The recovery email was my dad's old account, an account I had access to because I was the executor of his estate. "I can get into Dad's email," I whispered. "I know that one by heart." We logged into my father's account. There it was, the verification code. We punched it in. The screen flashed, "Welcome, Elena." We were in. For the next 4 hours, we performed a digital autopsy on my mother's life. It was fascinating and horrifying. Alessandro was a maestro. He knew exactly what to look for. He ignored the personal emails from friends and went straight to the trash and archived folders. "People delete the things they are guilty about," he muttered, "but they never empty the trash bin." And there it was, the paper trail. Emails to a lawyer in New York I'd never heard of, a man named Marcus Thorne. Subject, relocation confirmation. Body. Marcus, the lease in Rome is signed. The girls and I are flying out on the 14th. I will send the boarding passes as proof of travel. When does the wire hit? Reply. As soon as the trust administrator verifies the relocation documents and the geolocated login from Italy, the funds will be released to the holding account. 48 hours. 48 hours, I said, checking the date. That was Friday. Today is Sunday. The money releases tomorrow. Where is it going? Alessandro asked. Look for bank notifications. We dug deeper. We found a notification from a bank in the Cayman Islands, account ending in 5044. She's moving it offshore, Alessandro said, frowning. This Marcus Thorne, he knows what he is doing. Once that money hits the Caymans, it is gone. We cannot touch it with a lawsuit. It disappears into the mist. I felt the panic returning. So we're too late? Not yet, Alessandro said. He cracked his knuckles. We know where it is going. Now we need to know why your father set it up this way. You said the trust was for M&S? Maya and Sarah. Are you sure? Who else would it be? Alessandro swiveled his chair to a bookshelf. He pulled down a thick volume on international banking law. You said your father was a developer. He dealt with contracts. Words matter, Maya. Specificity matters. Did the document say Maya and Sarah, or did it say M&S? I think it said M&S. The account name was just the M&S Trust. Show me the document, he said. Is it in her email? I searched. Underwoodtrust.pdf. I opened it. We scrolled through pages of legal jargon. Alessandro stopped at the definitions section. Beneficiaries. The M&S Trust is established for the sole benefit of the entity defined herein as the minor survivors of Robert Underwood. I stared at the screen. Minor survivors? But we're 22. We aren't minors. Alessandro adjusted his glasses. Look at the date of the trust creation. 3 years ago, we were 19. Still not minors, Alessandro said. In Illinois, the age of majority is 18. Your father knew that. So why use the word minor? He leaned back, tapping his chin. Unless it doesn't mean age. Unless it refers to something else. Or unless there is a codicil, a hidden instruction. He called me the engine, I said suddenly. The memory hit me like a physical blow. The last time I saw him, he brought me cocoa and said, Maya, you're the engine. Sarah is the paint job, but you're the engine. Don't ever forget that. Alessandro looked at me. Engine. A strange compliment, unless it is a key. He turned back to the computer. Search the email for engine. I typed it in. 0 results. Search for motor, transmission, mechanic. Nothing. I closed my eyes, trying to channel my father, trying to remember exactly how his mind worked. He loved puzzles. He loved hidden structural elements in his buildings, secret rooms, hidden safes behind bookcases. He used to leave blueprints, I said. He would hide things in the blueprints of his buildings, notes to us. Blueprints, Alessandro repeated. Did he email any blueprints? Hundreds. It's a construction company. No, Alessandro said. Personal ones. Did he ever design a house for you? My breath hitched. The tree house, when we were 10. He designed a massive tree house that we never built. He sent me the PDF of the plans years later when I was in college, just as a nostalgia thing. He said, if you ever need a place to escape, build this. I searched for tree house. There it was, an email from 2 years ago. Subject, The Sanctuary. Attachment, treehouse_final_v2.pdf. Alessandro downloaded it. He opened it in a specialized architectural program he had installed. It was a beautiful drawing, a complex, multi-level treehouse. Zoom in, Alessandro said. Look at the foundation. I zoomed in. The foundation blocks had numbers on them. Coordinates? Alessandro guessed. No, I said, leaning closer. They look like account numbers, or part of one. Alessandro grabbed a notepad. Read them to me. 10, 44, 82, 19. He wrote them down. That is not enough for an account number. Look elsewhere. The roof. I scrolled up. The shingles had letters. P-A-S-S. Pass, Alessandro whispered. Password. I kept reading. W-O-R-D. Keep going, he urged. I-S. And then, tiny letters hidden in the leaves of the oak tree drawing. V-I-T-R-U-V-I-A-N. Vitruvian, I said. Like the Vitruvian Man? Da Vinci? Your father was a man of culture, Alessandro smiled. So we have a number sequence and the word Vitruvian, I said. What does it mean? The trust, Alessandro said. You said the bank was in the Caymans? Go back to that notification. We pulled up the transfer notification my mother had received. First, Cayman Atlantic Bank. Alessandro opened a new tab. He went to the bank's website. He clicked on Client Login. Try the numbers from the foundation as the user ID, he said. I typed them in. 10448219. Password, he said. Vitruvian. I typed it. My finger hovered over the Enter key. If this works, I said, it means my mother doesn't have the full control she thinks she does. Press it. I pressed Enter. The screen loaded, a spinning wheel. My heart beat in sync with it. Access granted. We weren't looking at the account my mother was transferring money into. We were looking at the master account, the source. And the balance wasn't $2 million. It was $12 million. I gasped, covering my mouth. 12 million? Where? How? The 2 million was just the interest, Alessandro murmured, his eyes scanning the transaction history. This is a holding company. Your father... Maya, your father was moving money out of the U.S. for a long time. This isn't just a trust fund. This is his life savings, hidden from the creditors, hidden from the partners, and hidden from your mother. Why didn't he tell her? Because he knew, Alessandro said softly. He knew she was the paint job, and you don't trust the paint job to hold up the building. You trust the engine. He pointed to the screen. Look at the permissions. Primary administrator, Maya Underwood. Secondary administrator, Elena Underwood, restricted. Restricted? Click on it. I clicked. Secondary administrator may initiate transfers only upon trigger event A, relocation. Transfer limit, 20% of total holdings. She can only take the 2 million, I realized. She thinks that's the whole pot. She doesn't know about the other 10. She is stealing the crumbs, Alessandra said, a savage grin spreading across his face. And she thinks she has stolen the cake. But, I said, the realization dawning on me, if she takes the 2 million, she disappears. She wins. She leaves me here and lives happily ever after on that money. Yes, Alessandro said, unless... He leaned back, tenting his fingers. Unless we move the money first. I can't steal it, I said. That makes me a criminal. You are the primary administrator, Alessandro corrected. It is not stealing, it is asset reallocation. But we have a problem. To move this kind of money, the bank will require voice verification, or a physical token. Do you have the token? No, Dad probably had it. Then they will call the registered number on file. I checked the profile settings. The phone number listed was my old number, the phone that was currently somewhere in Rome, dead or destroyed, or maybe in my mother's purse in New York. If we try to move the money, I said, they'll call my phone. If Mom has it, she'll get the alert. She'll know I'm accessing the account. She'll know I'm alive and fighting back. She'll panic and drain her 20% immediately. We are at a stalemate, Alessandro said. We have the keys to the castle, but the drawbridge is stuck. He stood up and paced the room, his cane thumping rhythmically on the hardwood. We need to bypass the phone, he said. We need to go to the source. The Caymans? No, that is too far, and you have no passport. Alessandro stopped pacing. He looked at a map of the world on the wall. First Cayman Atlantic Bank. They are a subsidiary. Who owns them? He went back to the computer and searched. Parent company, Medici Global Holdings. Headquarters, Zurich. Branch office, Rome. He spun around, eyes wide. Rome. They have a private wealth office here, Via Condotti. But I have no ID, I said. I can't walk into a bank and claim to be Maya Underwood. I'm a ghost. Alessandro walked over to a bookshelf and pulled down a hollowed-out book, The Count of Monte Cristo, ironically. Inside was a stack of cash and a small black notebook. Identity is a fluid concept in Italy, he said. I have a friend. His name is Giovanni. He was a forger for the Red Brigades in the 70s. Now he makes menus for restaurants and occasionally documents for people in distress. You want me to get a fake passport? I want you to get your passport, he said, or a copy of it that is good enough to fool a banker who wants to believe you are a rich heiress. You know your social security number? Yes. You know the account details? Yes. You look like the photos? Yes. Then we are going to see Giovanni, tonight. The workshop was in the basement of a pizzeria in Trastevere. It smelled of yeast and melting plastic. Giovanni was a massive man with flour on his hands and a jeweler's loop in his eye. Alessandro spoke to him in rapid-fire Roman dialect. Giovanni looked at me, squinted, grabbed my chin, and turned my face left and right. American? He grunted. Yes. Hard to do. The new chips. Very biometric. It doesn't need to fly, Alessandro said. It just needs to pass a visual inspection at a bank desk. No scanning. Ah, Giovanni smiled. Visual. Easy. 500 euros. Alessandro peeled off the bills. We need it by morning. Giovanni nodded. He sat me down on a stool, took a photo with a digital camera that looked 20 years old, and went to work. I watched him layer plastic and paper, using a scalpel with surgical precision. It was mesmerizing. While he worked, Alessandro coached me. Tomorrow morning, we walk into Medici Global. You are not Maya the victim, you are Maya the heiress. You are annoyed, you are impatient. You are there because the automated system is incompetent, and you need to authorize a transfer immediately. What if they check the system and see the relocation flag? You tell them the relocation is canceled. You tell them your mother is having a mental health crisis, and you need to freeze the sub-account immediately to prevent her from draining the estate. Gaslight her, I said. Exactly. She tried to erase you. You are going to freeze her out. It took 3 hours. When Giovanni handed me the passport, it felt warm. It looked perfect. My face, my name, a slightly different issue date, but who would notice? We slept at Alessandro's again. I didn't sleep well. I kept dreaming of the plane taking off, but this time, I wasn't watching from the window. I was flying the plane, and I was turning it around. Monday morning, 9 a.m. Alessandro had raided his late wife's closet. He found a black blazer that fit me well enough, paired with the crispest white shirt I'd ever seen. He polished my scuffed shoes until they shone. He gave me a pair of oversized sunglasses. Attitude, he reminded me, as we stood outside the gold-plated doors of the bank on Via Condotti. You own the building. They are just renting space in your world. I took a deep breath. I channeled Sarah. How would Sarah walk in here? She would barge in. She wouldn't ask. I pushed the doors open. The air conditioning hit me first. The smell of money, cold, sterile, quiet. A receptionist looked up. Buongiorno, can I help you? I didn't stop at the desk. I walked straight toward the glass offices in the back. Signorina, the receptionist called out, standing up. You cannot go back there. I stopped and turned slowly, lowering my sunglasses. I am Maya Underwood, I said, my voice steady and loud enough to be heard by the suits in the back. Primary administrator of the Vitruvian Holdings. I have been on hold with your Cayman office for 3 hours. I am done with phones. Get me a manager. Now. The receptionist faltered. The name Underwood didn't mean anything to her, but Vitruvian clearly flagged something in their system. Or maybe it was just the sheer audacity of my entrance. A man in a blue suit emerged from an office. He looked slick, professional. I am Marco Rossi, senior manager. Is there a problem? The problem, I said, stepping into his personal space, is that my mother, the secondary beneficiary, is currently attempting to liquidate assets she is not authorized to touch. I need to freeze account 1044 immediately, and I seem to have lost my phone, so your two-factor authentication is useless to me. I slapped the fake passport onto his desk. Verify me, then freeze it. Marco Rossi picked up the passport. He looked at it. He looked at me. He looked at the passport again. My heart stopped. The glue was probably still wet. The hologram was probably a millimeter off. He typed something into his computer. Ms. Underwood, he said slowly. I see the account here. 12 million USD, correct? Correct. And the secondary user, Elena Underwood. She is mentally unstable, I lied smoothly. She has stolen family documents and fled to the US. I believe she is being coerced by a third party. If any money leaves that account, I will sue this bank for negligence so fast your head will spin. Marco swallowed. He looked at the passport one last time. Then he handed it back. I understand. We take fraud protection very seriously. He turned to his keyboard. I am placing a code red lock on the account. No transfers in or out without in-person biometric verification at the Zurich headquarters. Excellent, I said. Do it. He hit enter. Account frozen. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. We had done it. We had stopped the bleeding. My mother would land in New York, go to the bank to collect her millions, and find nothing. Thank you, Marco, I said. You've been very helpful. I turned to leave. One moment, Ms. Underwood, Marco said. I froze. Since you are here, he said, and since you mentioned your mother is in the US, there is an alert on the system. An alert? Yes, a login attempt, 10 minutes ago. He turned the screen toward me. Login location, New York, New York. IP address, the Plaza Hotel. She's at the Plaza, I whispered. Of course she is. She's spending the money before she even has it. And, Marco continued, she requested a callback. She is on the line with our fraud department right now. My blood ran cold. She's on the phone with the bank? Yes, she is claiming you're the one who is missing and mentally unstable. She is trying to override the freeze I just put in place. Marco looked at me, his eyes narrowing. She says you have been missing for 3 days. She says she has a police report from Rome filing you as a runaway. He reached for the phone on his desk. Perhaps we should conference her in? Clear this up? I looked at Alessandro, who was standing by the door, pretending to read a brochure. He gave me a tiny, imperceptible shake of his head. Don't talk to her. No, I said to Marco. That won't be necessary. The freeze stands. I will go to the authorities here. I insist, Marco said, his voice hardening. If there is a dispute over administration, we must verify the identity of the person in our office. He pressed a button. Security to the manager's office. The air left the room. Marco wasn't buying it anymore. The passport was good, but the story was messy. Banks hate messy. Miss Underwood, Marco said, standing up. Please have a seat. Security will just... I didn't sit. I grabbed the passport off the desk. I'm leaving, I said. You are not leaving, Marco said. 2 large security guards appeared at the glass door. I was trapped. Alessandro stepped forward. He walked right up to Marco, leaning on his cane. Marco Rossi, Alessandro said calmly. Son of Stefano Rossi, the butcher in Monte? Marco blinked, surprised. Excuse me? I audited your father's shop in 1998, Alessandro said. He had a very interesting way of weighing the prosciutto, and you had a very interesting way of declaring your income from your side business in, was it sports betting? Marco's face went pale. I am Alessandro Moretti, he said, formerly of the state prosecutor's office. This young lady is my client. We are leaving. You will keep the account frozen because it is the law, and you will tell your security guards to step aside, or I will make a phone call to my old friends in the Guardia di Finanza, and we will discuss your branch's compliance history. Marco stared at him. The threat was vague, but Alessandro's presence was terrifyingly real. Marco waved his hand at the guards. Let them go. We walked out. We walked fast. We didn't stop until we were 3 blocks away, blending into the crowd of tourists at the Spanish Steps. I leaned against a wall, shaking. That was close. Too close, Alessandro said. He was breathing hard. But we learned something vital. What? She is at the Plaza Hotel, and she is fighting for the money. which means she is desperate. He looked at me. The freeze will only hold for 24 hours. She will get a lawyer. She will send the police report. She will prove she is the mother and you are the runaway. The bank will eventually side with the person who has the valid paperwork and isn't running from security guards. So what do we do? I asked. We can't go to New York. I still don't have a real passport to fly. No, Alessandro said. We cannot go to New York. He pulled out his phone. He dialed a number. But we can bring New York to us. Who are you calling? You said your sister Sarah is a narcissist? The biggest. Does she use social media? Constantly. Instagram, TikTok. She documents every breath she takes. Alessandro smiled. Good. We are going to catfish your sister. What? We are going to make her believe that the money is not in the bank, Alessandro said. We are going to make her believe that her father hid the real fortune somewhere else, somewhere that requires them to come back to Italy. They'll never come back, I said. They left me here to die. Greed, Alessandro said, is a powerful magnet. If they think there is $50 million buried in a vineyard in Tuscany, they will swim across the Atlantic. He handed me his phone. Find her account. Let's see what they are doing while you were sleeping on the street. I opened Instagram. I typed in Sarah_Underwood_official. There was a news story posted 1 hour ago. It was a video. Sarah was holding a glass of champagne, sitting on a velvet couch in a hotel suite. The caption read, New beginnings, #NYC, #HeiressLife, #Fresh Start. And then, panning into the frame, was my mother. She was laughing, holding shopping bags from Bergdorf Goodman. To the future, my mother toasted in the video, and to leaving the past behind. I watched it 3 times. The past. That was me. I was the past they were drinking to. The sadness evaporated. The fear evaporated. All that was left was a cold, hard rage. I was the engine. And engines can drive cars, but they can also crush things. Okay, I said to Alessandro, let's bring them back, and then let's destroy them.
We spent the night crafting the perfect lie. It is strange how easy it is to deceive people who are already lying to themselves. My mother and Sarah were currently sitting in a suite at the Plaza Hotel in New York, convinced they had won the lottery of life. They believed they were the smartest people in the room, and that vanity was their Achilles heel. Alessandro sat at his computer, a glass of Chianti in his hand, looking like a conductor about to lead a symphony. We weren't going to hack them this time. We weren't going to steal from them. We were going to give them exactly what they wanted. The lure must be specific, Alessandro said, tapping his temple. Greed is general, but the specific object of greed makes it real. We need a document, an undiscovered asset. We created a persona. Carlo Viventri, a senior archivist for a fictitious firm called Vatican Heritage Trust. We built a fake website in about an hour, filling it with stock photos of dusty ledgers and serious-looking men in suits. We backdated some digital records. And then we composed the direct message. We targeted Sarah. We knew Mom wouldn't check her DMs, but Sarah lived for the little red notification badge. The message read, Ms. Underwood, I am attempting to locate the heirs of Robert Underwood regarding the Vitruvian property in Tuscany. Our records indicate a deed was held in a blind trust, physically located in a safe deposit box in Siena. The asset appraisal is approximately 50 million euros in gold bullion and bearer bonds. Please contact me immediately. If I cannot verify the heirs within 48 hours, the assets forfeit to the state. 50 million. It was an absurd number, a cartoonish number, but Alessandro insisted. Small lies are questioned, he said. Big lies are celebrated. We hit send. Then, we waited. The hours ticked by. I paced Alessandro's living room, wearing a groove into his Persian rug. I imagined them in New York. Were they sleeping? Were they shopping? Had they forgotten about me completely? The silence was agonizing. It felt like I was back at the airport, watching the clock, waiting for a family that would never come back. Then, at 3:00 a.m. Rome time, a ping. Alessandro spun his chair around. She replied. The message was short, frantic, and misspelled. OMG, who is this? I am his daughter. My mom is here too. Is this real? Alessandro smiled, the shark-like grin of a man who loved the hunt. He typed back, Ms. Underwood, this is a highly sensitive matter. The deed requires physical biometric verification of the primary beneficiaries. I cannot discuss details over Instagram. Please call this number. He used a burner phone. He set it on the desk between us. 10 seconds later, it rang. Alessandro cleared his throat. He put on a pair of reading glasses, though he didn't need them. He answered in a deep, gravelly voice, speaking English with a heavy, aristocratic Italian accent. This is Viventry. I listened on speakerphone. I heard my mother's voice. It sent a jolt of electricity through my spine. She sounded breathless. Mr. Viventry, this is Elena Underwood, Robert's wife. My daughter showed me your message. What is this about gold? Signora Underwood, Alessandro said, sounding bored. I am just the executor. Your late husband purchased a derelict vineyard near Siena 10 years ago. It seems he was using the cellar to store commodities. We found the manifest during a routine audit. 50 million in value. But the vault is time-locked. It opens only with the retina scan of a direct blood relative. I was told you were in Rome? I need you here by tomorrow evening to unlock it, or I have to hand it over to the government. Tomorrow? Mom screeched. But we just arrived in New York. That is unfortunate, Alessandro said, making a motion to hang up. The law is the law. The deadline is strict. No, wait, Sarah's voice cut in, shrill and desperate. We can come. We can fly back. Don't call the government. I need you at the Villa Rossi in Siena by 6 p.m. tomorrow, Alessandro said. Do not be late, and bring your passports. He hung up. He looked at me. They are coming. I let out a breath that felt like a scream. They're actually coming. Greed, Alessandro whispered. It overrides the survival instinct every time. The next 24 hours were a blur of logistics. Alessandro called in favors I didn't know he had. We weren't going to Siena. That was too far. We were using a property closer to Rome, an old, crumbling estate belonging to a friend of his who was currently in rehab in Switzerland. It looked the part. Ancient stones, creeping ivy, a heavy iron gate that screamed secret money. We hired actors, 2 large men to play security guards. We staged the office in the main hall with dust sheets and antique lamps. And I got ready. I went to a salon. I cut my hair. Gone were the long, soft waves. I got a sharp, angular bob. I dyed it jet black. I bought a suit. White, severe, expensive. I put on red lipstick. I looked in the mirror and I didn't see the girl who carried the luggage anymore. I saw the engine. We drove to the villa in Alessandro's vintage Alfa Romeo. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the cypress trees. My heart was pounding, but it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline. It was the feeling of a quarterback in the final seconds of the game. We set the stage. Alessandro, dressed as the notary, Carlo, sat at the head of a long mahogany table. In front of him was a metal briefcase. Inside was not gold. Inside was a single red brick, the same one from my suitcase. I hid in the adjacent room behind a heavy velvet curtain. I could see everything through a crack in the fabric. At 6:15 p.m., a taxi crunched up the gravel driveway. I watched them get out. They looked exhausted. My mother was wearing the same travel clothes she'd worn to New York, rumpled and stained. Sarah looked haggard, her makeup smeared, dragging a Louis Vuitton suitcase through the dirt. They were bickering. I told you not to tip the driver that much, Mom snapped. Shut up, Mom, Sarah hissed. We're about to be worth 50 million. Who cares? They walked into the main hall. The air was cool and smelled of damp stone. Alessandro stood up, imposing and grave. Signora Underwood, Signorina Underwood, you are late. Traffic was a nightmare, Mom said, trying to smooth her hair. But we're here. Where is it? Where is the vault? Sit, Alessandro commanded. They sat. They were vibrating with energy, their eyes darting around the room, looking for the gold. They didn't even ask about me. They had flown to Italy, left me for dead, flown to New York, and flown back, and not once had my name crossed their lips. "Before we proceed to the vault," Alessandro said, sliding a stack of papers across the table, "we must verify the claim. This document confirms that you are the sole living heirs and that no other claimants exist. If there is another heir, say, a sibling, and you do not declare them, this transaction is fraud. Prison time." He looked at them over his glasses. "Is there anyone else?" My mother didn't hesitate. "No, just us." "My husband had another daughter," Mom said quickly, waving her hand dismissively. "Maya, but she ran away. She's mentally unstable. We don't know where she is. She's practically a missing person. She has no standing." "She's gone," Sarah added. "Like, gone. We think she joined a cult." I felt the rage burn in my chest, hot and purifying. A cult. They had erased me so completely they had already invented a backstory for my absence. "Very well," Alessandro said. "Sign here and here." They signed. They signed their names to a document that Alessandro had drafted. It wasn't a claim for gold. It was a confession. The text, hidden in the dense legal Italian that neither of them bothered to read, stated that they knowingly abandoned a dependent, committed wire fraud, and were attempting to access restricted funds under false pretenses. "Done," Mom said, dropping the pen. "Now, show us the money." Alessandro smiled. "Of course, the vault." He reached for the metal briefcase. He spun the combination lock. Click, click. Mom and Sarah leaned forward, their eyes wide, practically drooling. Alessandro opened the lid. He reached in and pulled out the brick. He set it on the table with a heavy thud. Silence. Absolute confused silence. "What is that?" Sarah asked, her voice trembling. "Is the gold inside the brick?" "No," Alessandro said, his voice dropping the fake accent. "The brick is a reminder of the weight you left behind." Mom looked up, confused. "What? Who are you?" "My name is Alessandro Moretti," he said, "and I am the new financial advisor to the Underwood estate." "That's impossible," Mom stammered. "I am the administrator." "Not anymore," a voice said. My voice. I stepped out from behind the curtain. The sound they made was unique. It was a gasp that turned into a choke. My mother fell back in her chair. Sarah dropped her phone. I walked toward the table. The click of my heels on the stone floor echoed like gunshots. I stood at the opposite end of the table, looking down at them. "Hello, Mother. Hello, Sarah." "Maya," Mom whispered. She looked like she was seeing a ghost. You're alive?" "Disappointed?" I asked. No, baby, of course not." Mom scrambled up, putting on her best mask. The tears started instantly. "Oh my God, we were so worried. We looked everywhere. We thought you got lost in the airport. We called the police." "Stop," I said. It wasn't a scream. It was a command. "Stop acting. The performance is over." "Maya, listen," Sarah started, standing up too. "It was a misunderstanding. Mom got confused about the gate number and—" "I saw the video," I said. "The toast. To the past. Remember? At the plaza?" Sarah's face went white. "And," I continued, "I have the emails. To Marcus Thorne. I have the bank records. I have the note you left in the coat pocket. Engines don't need passengers." My mother sank back into the chair. She realized finally that the charm wasn't going to work. The manipulation wasn't going to work. "What do you want, Maya?" she asked, her voice hard and cold. The real Elena. "You want an apology? Fine. I'm sorry. We panicked. We needed the money. You were always so capable. I knew you'd figure it out." "I did figure it out," I said. "I figured out the password to Dad's real account." Mom's eyes narrowed. "What real account?" "The one with the $12 million, I said casually. The air left the room. 12? Sarah choked. "Dad didn't leave $2 million, I said. "He left 12, but he hid it. He hid it from the paint job. He left it for the engine." I pulled a folder from my jacket. Yesterday morning, while you were flying here to chase a fake pot of gold, I went to the Medici Bank in Rome. With the help of my associate here and the full authority of the primary administrator, that's me, I executed a transfer. You can't, Mom hissed. You're a child. I am the executor, I said. And because of the document you just signed, I pointed to the paper on the table. Admitting to fraud and abandonment, I petitioned the bank to remove you as secondary beneficiaries due to gross misconduct and criminal intent. I tossed the folder onto the table. It slid across and hit the brick. The account is empty, Mom. I moved it, all of it, to a trust that you will never, ever find. My mother lunged. She actually lunged across the table, her fingernails aiming for my face. You ungrateful little bitch. That is my money. I earned it. I put up with him for 20 years. The security guards, the actors, stepped forward, blocking her effortlessly. She collapsed onto the table, sobbing. Not for me, for the money. Sarah just sat there, scrolling through her phone, looking dazed. My credit card, she whispered. It just got declined. I tried to order an Uber. It says, suspended. Yes, I said. I canceled those too. Dad's estate paid for them. The estate is closed to you. The room fell silent, save for my mother's jagged breathing. So what now? Mom asked, looking up. Her mascara was running. She looked old. You leave us here? In the middle of nowhere? You send us to jail? Jail would be too easy, Alessandro spoke up, and too expensive for the Italian taxpayer. I thought about it. I said. I thought about letting the police take you, but you'd charm a judge, you'd get probation, you'd write a book about it. I walked over to the brick. I placed my hand on it. Instead, I'm giving you exactly what you gave me. I reached into my pocket and pulled out an envelope. I tossed it to Sarah. 2 tickets, I said. Coach, to Chicago. Chicago? Sarah wrinkled her nose. Ew, we sold the house. Exactly. I said. You have no house, you have no car, you have no access to the accounts. You are going back to exactly where you started before you met Dad. I pulled out a small wad of cash. $500, I said. That's for food, make it last. You can't do this, Mom screamed. I am your mother, you owe me. I owe you nothing, I yelled, my voice finally breaking, the tears finally coming hot and fast. I kept this family alive. I did the taxes, I paid the bills, I grieved him while you shopped, and you left me. You looked at me through that glass and you left me. I wiped my face. I took a deep breath. You aren't my family, I said quietly. You're just people I used to know. I turned to the guards. Escort them to the airport. If they refuse to board, leave them on the curb. Maya! Sarah cried, running after me as I turned to leave. Maya, please, I'm sorry. I'll be better. Take me with you. I can help you spend the money. We can be sisters again. I stopped. I looked at her. The golden girl. The paint job. We were never sisters, Sarah, I said. We were just roommates. I walked out the heavy oak doors. I heard them screaming my name, but the sound faded as the heavy wood slammed shut. I walked out into the cool Tuscan evening. The air smelled of pine and rain. Alessandro was waiting by the car smoking a cigar. He looked at me. How do you feel? I thought about it. I checked for the guilt. It wasn't there. I checked for the sadness. It was there, but it was old sadness, fading like a bruise. I feel, I said, looking up at the stars, light. The engine is running, Alessandro smiled. So, $12 million, a bright future. What will you do? Buy a villa? A yacht? No, I said. I opened the car door. I think I want to finish my degree. Then, I want to build things, real things, like my dad. And the money? I'll invest it, I said. And maybe I'll keep a little bit aside for a rainy day fund, or for people like me, people who get left behind at airports. Alessandro laughed. He started the car. The engine purred, a deep, powerful sound. We drove away from the villa, leaving the darkness behind us. I stayed in Rome, not forever, but for a while. I rented a small apartment near the Pantheon, a real one this time, with a key and a lease. I visit Alessandro every Sunday for lunch. He is teaching me how to play chess. He says I am a natural because I am willing to sacrifice the queen to win the game. My mother and Sarah? Last I heard, they were living in a small apartment in a suburb of Chicago. Mom is working as a receptionist at a dental office. Sarah is trying to become an influencer, but it's hard to sell a luxury lifestyle when you're filming in a basement. They send me emails sometimes, asking for money, asking for forgiveness. I don't delete them. I move them to a folder I created. I name the folder The Paint Job, and I never open it because I'm too busy driving the car. Outro, thank you for listening to the finale of The Rome Deception. It's been a wild ride with Maya, and I hope you enjoyed seeing justice finally served. If you love this story, please hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I have a new story coming next week about a man who discovers his wife has been living a double life for 10 years. And trust me, the twist in that one is even crazier. Put in the comments, what would you have done with the 12 million? Would you have given any to the family? Or did they get exactly what they deserved? I'm reading every comment. See you in the next story.